Yes.
Hello and welcome to this chaotic early morning episode of DMs After Dark, part of our Meet the DM series, where this lovely morning I get to hang out with Troy. What's up?
Yeah. What's up, Sarah? I'm excited.
This is one of those fun pairings I keep joking about because like we have seen each other in person maybe twice, maybe in passing at the library.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. So this is one of those instances where other than DMs After Dark, we don't really know too much about each other. So this will be a great experience, and hopefully, I can give you some ammunition to use against Amber. So yeah,
Oh, that's fun. Perfect.
some
All
deep
right.
dark secrets. Yes,
The
and
real motivation.
we did coordinate a little bit ahead of time
We
because
did.
everybody else had these bougie like drink pairings and stuff like that. So Sarah and I decided, you know what? It's 10:30 or 9:30 in the morning, and we're gonna have Angry Orchard together because we're adults. So
So, yep. Cheers. We are just chaotic drinking. Good shit is in the system. So, I got some of these from Rainy. I pulled some of these from my own interview, so it's just a mishmash of questions. So, what game got you into RPGs in the first, like tabletop RPGs in the first place?
yeah, so I think for me, my kind of adventure into RPGs was a little it was almost like destined from a very young age. So the very first role playing game that we ever played was Dungeons and Dragons 3.5. But even before that, I remember when I was really young, Amber and I, we always would we would very literally like role play, like just games, like in the backyard and stuff. So we would, whether it was we would pretend we were like these animorphs or like
Yes.
or come up with these like cards that we would write like these imaginary stats on, and we would just like run around the yard with sticks and
You
shit.
had stats?
Yeah. I remember. I don't remember what the game was, or characters specifically, but shit, I was young. I must have been 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that ballpark. But yeah, we would just like pretend we were like superheroes and come up with like powers and stuff. And I think that kind of, like I said, I think that kind of sparked our passion for role playing at a very young age. Once we found D&D, it kind of just formalized and created a structured system for what we were already, pretending or doing with our imaginations.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I remember I had one guy when we would, pretend we were like these anamorph like people. And I always wanted to be able to do everything. Like Amber was like, I'm going to turn into a wolf. I'm like, cool. I'm a bug guy. I turn into any bug. And she's like, that's broken. And I'm like, shut up. I'm a praying mantis.
You do not say stupid.
I didn't say stupid.
Yes, you did. Lie.
Okay, mister. Go hang out there. Daddy's busy. You can say hi really quick and then you got to go. Say hi to the interweb.
Hi, interweb. Bye.
Perfect. Beautiful. So yeah, D&D 3.5 was the first that was the first role-playing game that we've ever played. Our grandfather and grandmother had bought us the player's handbook.
Aww.
And I think the monster manual maybe were the two books that they bought us to kind of start. And then from there everything else was just downhill from there.
Is it
downhill, uphill, right? It's just perspective. That's all it is.
It's a roller coaster. It's fine.
That's true. It's true.
Do you remember the first character you made when you played 3.5 originally?
I don't remember my very first character, unfortunately. Like I said, I was really young. We kind of got into it. Our friend Kyle, at the time, who was Amber's age, he was a few years older than us. He had started playing with his, I think his cousin Evan. They had kind of gotten into it a little bit, and then he introduced it to us. So I was seriously, I remember bringing D&D books to school in second grade. So I was 7 or 8 years old. and I tried to get like a game going in school and stuff. So I was very, very young. I don't remember my first character, but I do have, I would say my first memorable character, the first character that I can remember, and kind of a trope that I played from then on, was a dwarven fighter named Colgrim Bordock. That was his name.
That's powerful for like
And
a second grader.
Yeah, yeah. And he always had, stereotypical dwarven fighter. He had an axe and a shield. And I always tried to just like dump as much points into armor class as I could. Tried to, I'm just going to carry a tower shield because why not? Like, just stupid shit. And a buckler on my other arm because,
Who's going to stab you?
I don't need to be able to hit anything. I'm just a tank. It's fine.
It's fine.
So, that's the first character that I kind of really remember. But I also remember being inspired by D&D. I tried to write this like small book, I guess, in like second grade. So as you could imagine what that would be like. But there was one part, I don't even remember too much. We'd have to ask Amber. But I remember something about like they were going somewhere on a quest and the carriage broke away from them and ran one of them over. It was like this grievous injury. One of them was run over by a carriage.
Because, that's what you do in second grade. You're like, this is how things happen.
Exactly.
So I guess going from the chaotic book, do you remember the first game you ran? Or like when you started running?
Well, I know Amber had started DMing first, for sure. She was a few years older than me. She had a little bit better of a grasp of the concepts and stuff like that. First time I DM'd. That's a great question. God,
it's tricky, right?
I'm trying to like dig through the ages. I'm trying to remember when I was like 8. I think I'm positive that I had run some I had DM'd some games before, but they couldn't have been for any extended period of time or any long campaigns or anything like that. The first campaign that I like really remember running would have been when I was in high school. I started running a campaign for my other friend group, which was Rainey and Lynn and a couple other friends, Ed, Mike, all these people. And that was Rainey's first introduction to D&D.
Hold on. I did not realize you and Rainey knew each other that long.
Oh yeah. I met Rainey. I met Rainey when I was probably in like 10th or 11th grade. Yeah. So, So we've known each other for quite some time. Lynn is actually my second cousin. Or no, she's my first cousin once removed.
That's right.
Her grandfather was my grandmother's brother. And we didn't know that until after we were all friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, wow, that's crazy. But yeah, that was the first campaign, that was any extended period of time that I remember running. And man, that was a good campaign. That was a good experience. It was their first shot in D&D too. Aww. So yeah.
Was it like was it 3.5? Was it?
Yep, it was still 3.5. So yeah, which for those of you that aren't familiar with D&D, I think as much as some of us kind of dog on 5e, it did do a good job of simplifying and kind of getting rid of some of the unnecessary like muck and mire that 3.5 had. But 3.5 will always be kind of like my first, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it has a special significance, but it was kind of crunchy and it was focused on, min-maxing and all these feats and building character arcs way ahead of time and that kind of stuff. So, and it could definitely get broken pretty easily, but it was fun.
Yeah. Like for folks with Pathfinder experience, Pathfinder is based on the 3.5 system. And
yeah, the first one, right? Or maybe both. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know about Pathfinder second edition, but I know first. I know that one is based on the old 3.5s.
Yeah. Yep.
And now it's its own chaotic monster.
Yeah. I haven't played Pathfinder yet. I'd like to.
It's
So
it's good. You have experience at 3.5, so you'll be fine.
yeah.
I, who have very little experience at 3.5, have been stumbling my way through it for most of my years playing it. But
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. So
what is your, I can't say best because it's hard to remember, but like what are your favorite moments DMing that you remember?
that's such a good question, Sarah. I feel like so for me, I think when I first started playing D&D, I was very much about the, numbers and coming up with the most overpowered character that I could and trying to break the system and stuff like that. So I was definitely a what do they call those? Power gamer. I was a power gamer for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm not sure really when that went away. And eventually it almost turned into like a aversion to power gaming where like I try to create characters that are now completely conceptual and like it's better if they actually suck because it's more interesting to play characters like that. Um, but for me, RPGs are they're super important. They're definitely a really important part of my life. I think RPGs allow us to kind of experience and express feelings and emotions and those kind of things in a different space. You know what I mean? Where it's fantasy, so it's safe to think outside the box and do extraordinary things that you can't do in real life. Um, as you can tell, like it's important to me. I have like an entire sleeve dedicated to
Yes.
my Shadows of Esteren campaign. So that's something that is again important to me. So I would say my favorite role playing experience my would probably be our Shadows of Esteren campaign as a whole. Um, it's one of those things where we've been going on for probably almost 2 years now, I want to say. And it started off as it was supposed to just be a one shot. Nobody, well, I think one of us, Jess and Amber, had played one time at Gen Con. We all did a one shot. And then Chris had never played before, and Ellen had never even role played before. Like she never played
Oh wow.
D&D or anything at all. So this was her first endeavor into role playing. For those of us watching, Ellen was our guest player for Three Raccoons in a Trench Coat.
Yes.
She's awesome. She's wonderful. She does a lot of like theater and stuff like that. So she is at least very creative and imaginative, which is clear when she role plays. But yeah, we've had some incredible moments in Shadows of Esteren. I think one of the things that I like to focus on as a GM is creating that atmosphere. And I try to do that through imagery, through being very vivid and vibrant with my descriptions. One sec.
Yep.
We have someone who needs a blankie.
You know what? You gotta do what you gotta do, man. Problem solved.
So, yeah, problem solved. So yeah, I try to create vivid imagery and stuff like that. And the other thing that I really like to do is I like to think of real life problems, whether they're like problems that I actually have or things that I've observed in society or problems of like ethical or moral issues. And I try to kind of impose that on my world and and in doing so on my players, right? So we've had some incredible sessions where like we've literally cried like playing, which sounds silly if you've never role played before or if you're not passionate about it, but to create a role played experience where the emotions are so powerful and where you've established such powerful connections that something like that happens is pretty incredible. It's certainly like the highlight of my experience is role playing. But we've also had like super funny moments too. You have like little inside jokes with your groups that span the years and years and will never go away. It's the same. It's the same with Esteren. That was the same. So my home group for that has been wonderful. Yeah, that would be it, I would say. I have kind of a cathartic view of the D&D 3.5 group that I played with Rainey and the rest of the group because when we got that game going, we were all really close. We, hung out a lot, saw each other a lot. And then right as that campaign came to a close, it was because I was leaving. I was going into the military. My life was changing. Didn't know if I'd ever really see everybody again on a consistent basis. And shortly after that happened, I ended up moving to Iowa. So it was kind of a like a farewell almost too. Not really, because I still talk to everybody, but I don't see everybody anymore. So
Yeah.
so that was a really good experience too.
But the game kind of came at an important, part of your life and allowed you to have all that before you didn't know.
Yeah, and it always seems to, you know what I mean? I feel like role-playing games have certainly helped me. I know Rainey talked about one of his players and how he mentioned that, afterwards, one of his players told him that like he was in a bad place in his life, whether it was like emotionally or financially. We didn't go into it, but
yeah,
that's certainly true for me. I mean, role-playing has been something that's been that consistency. Like I said, it's been that safe place to express emotion, what you're feeling, just all that stuff, just to escape. Sometimes it's just a little bit of a reprieve from reality, which we all need, so yeah, it's either that or do ecstasy or something. So
horse tranquilizers.
RPGs are slightly cheaper and also not illegal, so
but if you look at Christian and Rainey, they are almost as addictive.
That's true, and actually more expensive probably in their case, but it's fine.
it's fine.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Grown adults, jobs. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
But no, I totally feel that RPGs is a catharsis. Like one thing that I heard someone mention it once, and then I realized I've been unconsciously doing it for years. Is you put a part of yourself that you're trying to work on into a character and kind of like discover that through them.
Definitely. I can agree with that 100%. I would also be curious to see what that says about me, because I play a lot of really, really outrageous characters. So yeah.
Yeah, you don't realize it till after, and now it's like I've heard her say this, and now I'm like, this has been XYZ has been some consistent themes recently. What am I subconsciously thinking, and why does this make me nervous? Like it's not necessarily true for everyone, but it's interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know I just recently, I was driving to work yesterday, and I have kind of a long commute. It's like a 50-minute drive to work. So a lot of times I'll listen to a podcast or music or whatever. And for whatever reason, I ended up thinking about D&D, like back when I played D&D and stuff. And I actually thought of a really cool character concept that I would be excited to play for DMs After Dark whenever we do play D&D, which it will happen eventually. So, but yeah, and that was refreshing, because I haven't been excited about anything D&D in a long time. So yeah, I don't want to spoil it though by saying what the thought process was.
So one of the like biggest things that I would say myself and a bunch of, I would say, viewers have come to associate you with is Shadows of Esteren. Like you're the Esteren guy. And they've become a huge part of your life over the years. Did it just start from that Gen Con game, or where did it come from?
Yeah, that's the first time that we ever played. That was our first experience to Shadows of Esteren. We got to, in addition to playing the game, we also got to meet, and if you've never been to Gen Con before, it's basically like the largest gaming convention in the United States. It's huge. There's like 50, 60,000 people. They rent out the Indianapolis Colts football stadium and LARP in it, which I feel like is a total... That's just such the most badass like slap to the face. Like, oh, okay, jocks, you threw me in a locker like growing up. Well, guess what? Now I'm LARPing on the Indianapolis Colts football stadium. So
why did no one tell me this? I'm the resident LARPer. Hello?
I know. Well, I never got thrown in lockers or anything, but I would imagine there are people that have, and casting fireballs at each other in the end zone is probably pretty awesome.
Listen, man, you run around swinging a big foam sword, you feel fucking powerful. I
believe it. I'm not disagreeing at all. So yeah, Gen Con's this huge, massive event, and they have vendors from all over the world. They have thousands and thousands of different games. everything that you can imagine. They have guest authors and speakers and workshops and all kinds of cool stuff. But so in addition to playing Shadows of Esteren, because it sounded like an interesting game, I also got to, visit the booth that had the Studio Agate team there. And they were showcasing all of their products. So they had, Fate Forge, and they had their Vermin game, which is like a future post-apocalyptic game with giant spiders and stuff. And then they had Shadows of Esteren. And I got to meet Nell, who is the creator of Shadows of Esteren and the, I guess, founder of Studio Agate. And this guy, man, he had so much passion for what he was doing, and it was immediately apparent. Like, you could see it from across the room. It was more than just a game or, a financial revenue, for this guy. I mean, he spent 12 years of his life, creating and publishing and coming up with the ideas and stuff like that. And he set it into being. And when he created this thing, it wasn't just the books. He had professional orchestras compose albums for these books. Like one of the albums that they have, they had the Budapest Symphonic Orchestra, like, literally fucking make a musical album for Shadows of Esteren. It's crazy. It's insane. They have like a cookbook, or not really a cookbook, but they call it a culinary journey. And it's a 3-course meal that's inspired by the world of Shadows of Esteren. But like, this shit is French, and like, French people can cook and stuff. So like, this thing, it looks wild, right? The way it's presented.
Yeah.
They have a graphic novel, they have an art book, they have a point-click video game, maps, all kinds of lore. They have a novelette, they have all kinds of stuff. It's like incredible how they have a board game. It's just so all encompassing. And it was really, really cool when I got to meet the creator of that. And he even Amber was there, and Amber had a grant for the library for RPGs.
Yep.
And I kind of introduced Amber and was like, oh, this is my sister, she's starting a role-playing game at a public library here. And he was like, oh my gosh, he's like, here, just take a bunch of these. And he just gave us a bunch of the book zeros, and he's like, take these, like, give them to your friends, give them to, put them in the library, whatever. And it was really cool that he just did that, So I reached out like a year ago or so to the company, to Studio Agate, and I was like, hey, I really love your product. I've been playing Shadows of Esteren for a while. It's a big part of my life. I enjoy it a ton. And I want to support you guys in this endeavor because I would love to be a part of it. I see the kind of work that you've put into it. I see how passionate you are about it. And I want some of that, So yeah, I reached out to them, and now I'm working for them part-time, helping with sales and stuff like that here in the US. So it's cool. It's so crazy how that was just such a great adventure, but it makes sense why I'm the Shadows of Esteren guy. So.
Yeah. And I mean, it's literally, you kind of give a quick glimpse. It's literally completely down your arm.
Yeah. I have a whole sleeve.
I know it's going to be hard to see, but like, what are the parts of the arm?
Yeah. So we'll start at the bottom here. So this thing right here, that thing.
Yeah.
You can see it. That is the shield of one of the characters in my game. Her name is Arvin, and she's like this really badass fighter, and she is aspiring to be a knight, and she wants to be a Hilderin knight. And right now she works for the MacLears, and that is the symbol of the MacLears, that like stag. It's in a weird part of my arm. It's hard to show.
It's all good.
So that's her shield. That's the family, the noble house's crest. The raven is very very Shadows of Esteren. Like it has that Celtic horror, ominous feel. Everything from like the weather, like the dreary, rainy weather, to foreshadowing and foreboding. All of that is like kind of illustrated by the raven, and the raven has played a pretty important, significant part of my campaigns. This guy right here, the little negative space, looks like a little snowflake. That is called a hexacles, and that is the symbol of the Temple of the One God, which is kind of one of three main, I guess, like factions in Shadows of Esteren. So you have the Magiants, which our game was largely based off of.
Yep.
You have the Temple of the One God, and then you have the Demorathan, which are more kind of traditional druidic type of people. Here, this eye that goes up, my arm up here to this really cool like standing stone. That's actually the cover of book 0. So that is the artwork on the cover of book 0. Back here, around the back of my arm, these like bricks right here in this tree, that is the Tree of Dirg, which is the official campaign setting for Shadows of Esteren. So that is actually an image that's in one of the books. And then up here, we have this mask. And this mask is symbolic of one of the encounters that my party had with a creature that we eventually deemed the Wraith of Rage. And it was an epic several sessions where they were being hunted and tracked through this like haunted old Magiant's fort. And they eventually everything came to a head and they were fighting these Fiones in this like circle of like standing stones. And they barely survived, but they slew the Wraith of Rage. And when they killed it, it crumbled to dust and it left behind this mask that it was wearing. And then one of our characters, Ian, essentially grabbed that mask, and it had some pretty cool power behind it. Part of that is illustrated by Ian's bow, which goes through the mask right here. It represents his character's unique and dangerous connection to the object. And then the last part I have so far is this here, which is a string of dowels, which are the currency in Shadows of Esteren. And that has a couple different connotations to it. We have an NPC who we all call G Money. So that kind of represents him. And then we also had our group go to a city called Koskan, and they were there for quite a while. And it's like just the city of like filth and like crime and everything. So our characters hid half of their party's money was hid in like Masha's like breasts, and the other half was hid in like Ian's balls. So we called them Jingle Boobs and Jingle Balls. It was great. It was awesome.
This just goes to show that if the game is advertised as dark fantasy, it doesn't have to be the whole time.
Listen, it's that contrast. It's that juxtaposition that makes it so good. Jingle Boobs and Jingle Balls.
Sometimes that's all you need. So what is, this one took me forever to figure out an answer to. What is a dream game or scenario that you'd love to run but haven't had a chance to yet?
That I would love to run?
Yeah.
I think for me, as I mentioned before, so much of role-playing for me is the experience and the atmosphere. So realistically, I would say it probably could be any game as long as I was with a great group of friends. And I would like it to be in like a crazy, incredible setting. So like, I know they have these like giant castles and shit in Europe that you can like literally rent rooms in and play like D&D in. I don't know if you've ever heard of this before, but
like vaguely?
It's like you can pay like, I don't know, thousands of dollars or some stupid shit, and you can do something like that. So I would love to kind of do something like that with a group of good friends. Maybe play like a Shadows of Esteren game, have all like the props and be in this like castle. Maybe have like drinks inspired by the game, or even, like I said, any game really, like D&D, anything. It doesn't matter what the game is, but I would love to run something in a setting like that. That would be so cool. So cool. So
the fucking DM's After Dark field goal is my
bro, let's go to Europe and play in a castle. That would be amazing.
Fly this squad of 6 idiots out to Europe.
Oh, Europe is not ready.
Fine, they just lock us in one room in a castle. We'll be fine.
That's true. Yeah, they'd be like, "You live here now. We can't let you out."
That's fine.
It's dangerous to the public.
It's fine. It's fine. No, that's fucking awesome though. I have a hard time like separating atmosphere from system because I'm so used to, thinking of one game in a certain way and the different game in a different way. So like, how do you kind of like bring different atmospheres to different games? Like shift that around?
I think that's something that's very challenging, especially with COVID, in the recent past. It put a real damper for a lot of people on in-game sessions. And I feel like so much of the power and so much of the enjoyment of role-playing games comes from that actual communion with people, right? People bring snacks, people hang out, play games, they go in somebody's musky basement. Like, it's just part of the charm, they have the dice, the books. So it's so much of communication is physical, right? It's nonverbal, and those things get lost a little bit virtually. Having said that, I mean, I'm happy and we're fortunate that we have, these options to play virtually, because without it, I wouldn't be able to play. But some of that, creating that atmosphere, I would say, has really gotten difficult because of the lack of in-person play. I guess for me, I do one of two things, I would say. I either try to pick a game where there is a very rich story and atmosphere already kind of innately in the game, like Shadows of Esteren, for example. Or I try to keep really good open communication with my players and what it is that they want and what it is that they're looking for. And then I try to accommodate that. And if you have a group of people that you're comfortable with, it's easy enough to do. If everyone is feeling derpy and wants to play Bury Mary and play freaking, a zombie chef or a pair of Italian hands that just cooks like random objects and shit, like do it, but just, be on the same page with your players and create together. So I think creating an atmosphere, it's also not just the role of the DM. It takes buy-in from the players too. Because something is only horrific if people are afraid, right? So you have to be willing to take those chances and, grab those leads and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't know. I just try to be very descriptive with words and stuff. And I feel that the descriptive imagery helps with atmosphere too.
Yeah, no, and it absolutely does.
Yeah.
One of the things that I wish I had gotten a chance to do, but again, haven't been able to because of COVID and all that, is in my home 5e game, our DM had a little speaker that he would just put on the top of the DM screen and would play like really quiet background music.
Yeah.
I would have loved to do that for Good Society or some of these other games.
I know.
But it just will not work over a stream.
It doesn't. I've tried it, right? Because like I said, Esteren has 4 albums right now that are out that are associated with the game. And even in the books, sometimes it'll suggest a particular soundtrack for a particular scene. And man, there have been several moments where I have thought of and picked specific music that I just get an image with a scene that we're going over. And God, I wish it was the same, and I wish I could, use that to help create even more of an atmosphere, even more of a, intense moment. But we tried a couple times, and it's just, you're like, oh, it's echoey, and oh, I'm not hearing it well, and it's like, fuck it.
Yeah, at some point the connection just gets weird, and you're like, I'm hearing the music and not the people, and all of that shit.
Well, never mind, because I know what it sounds like, and it's beautiful. So screw you guys.
Feel it in your heart, man. So, what would your advice be for someone that wants to get into DMing or has been yeeted upon the position of DM of the group but doesn't really know where to start or what to, start with?
Well, so first of all, I feel like it can certainly feel like a daunting task. You know what I mean? Especially if you've never done it before, especially if you've never role played before. My best advice, though, would be whoever it is that you're close with, if you have a close group of friends, or even if you just have like a few best friends or a few acquaintances or whatever, whoever it is that you have that connection and investment to, role play with those people. They don't even have to be role players, because role playing is kind of a medium by which you create stronger bonds and connections to one another. And who doesn't like, being the things that they can't be, or exploring the things that they can only dream of doing. If you have a great group of friends that you have a good connection with, and just a smidge of creativity, and courage, role play with those people. And worst case scenario, like, nobody likes it, and that's fine. There's no harm, no foul, because guess what? You're still all great friends and you can do whatever you do normally. But best case scenario is you all are introduced to this new incredible opportunity. And just like anything grows with skill, role playing is the same. The more that you do it, the more that you practice it, not just DMing, but even being a player, the better that you get at it. And the deeper you want to go, the more challenging things you want to explore and do. So if you can do that with a group of close friends and all grow and do that together, man, that is chef kiss. Like, that's the epitome of what it's all about. So that would be my advice. Like, just grab your friends and be like, guys, like, let's try this. It sounds fun, and go for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're someone that's been a player a lot, but is now new to DMing, you'll be surprised at how much you like. Personally, a lot of what I learned about DMing, I learned from being a player.
Yeah, I think all of us, for the most part, usually start as a player. Not everybody, but yeah, I mean, being a DM is being a player. It's just having a bunch of characters, basically. So that's why when we played your first Good Society game, Sarah, and I played
the Baroness
Claire Dumont, I was like, this is my first time gender bending. Like, this is my first time playing a female. And Amber was like, no, it's not, dude. You fucking DM'd for years. Like, you've played tons of female characters. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true, huh? Okay. All right. Yeah, never mind. And then it didn't feel like such a daunting task. And I would like to say, in my humble opinion, I thought I fucking crushed it. So.
Oh, fucking absolutely. Fucking queen of the starving artists over here.
Oh, it's so good. The stale bagels and old wine.
The one remaining servant.
So good.
Fucking Alfred
And his katanas trimming the hedges. Goddamn.
So this is another weird one, but kind of falls into the last one. Was the biggest blunder as a DM that you can remember?
I think.
Yep. Child aggro.
Sorry, I just had to lock my kid out.
You're good.
I'm a good dad.
It's fine.
My biggest blunder. That's a tough question. I think my biggest blunder that I can think of was also somewhat a really good growing and learning experience for me. So it was with my home group with Shadows of Esteren. And as you have all heard before, and as I've mentioned before, Shadows of Esteren is a very storytelling and role-playing forward game. And some of the themes in Esteren are very dark. Some of them are very graphic. And if you have a lot of investment and buy-in into your character, Esteren is definitely a game where you can have some emotional bleed. You know what I mean? Torture, like sexual assault, like these are things that have come up in the campaign that I've played. And of course, I'm always open with my players about these things before I introduce them, but it can be heavy, right? So at one point, one of my players came to me and they said, hey, I'm honestly feeling like really, really like depressed and emotionally exhausted because of this game, not because of the game, but because of this character. And it's becoming too much for me. Can we take a little bit of a break from this campaign? And they posed the idea that we continued playing Shadows of Esteren, but that we played another campaign. And in doing so, it gave them the opportunity to play a character that was not so melancholy and so emotional and that kind of stuff. And it allowed them to have a reprieve from kind of what they were feeling. And now what we do is both of those campaigns actually take place in the same universe, the same world at the same time. They're just in different places and different events. So it's really, really cool because if we feel things are getting really heavy, or if we get to a point where the storyline has a natural climax, we can take a reprieve and we can hop over to the other campaign and say, hey, in the past several months, what has this group been doing? And how has that impacted the world? You know? So, so I would say partially inflicting that on a player, it didn't feel good, you know? But what did feel good was that the player was open about it and that I learned and grew from that and that we were able to use that as a learning experience. So it was a blunder, but it was also a really good opportunity too. And I learned a lot as a GM, you know what I mean? So
yeah, no, that's huge, especially because your player was willing and open to kind of come talk to you about that. And I think that's a very important thing to be able to do as a DM, is to be like, hey, like, please tell me if something's going on or whatever.
And, yeah, it is. It's a big thing. And that's some real shit. Like, I'm not saying that like other stuff isn't real, but like, it's one thing to say like, oh, I don't like, well, I'll use Jess as an example here because we're all friends and stuff. Jess hates zombies. Like, zombies are like a no-go for Jess. She's not like your cute zombies that you like, but like, the zombies that like shamble and move in jerky ways and eat brains and that kind of stuff. She doesn't like that stuff, right? And that's totally fine. And being a respectful GM and a respectful player means helping to accommodate that as best as you can. But even as real of a situation as that is, it's one isolated incident that's still within that realm of role playing and the imagination and like fantasy. But if a player comes to you and they're like, my life, like I am feeling depressed and my emotional state is being damaged because of this, that's fucking big. That's a huge deal. You know what I mean? That's not like a one specific thing. That's like man, I'm putting an X card on this game for a second on this character because I'm too emotionally invested and it's causing problems in my real life, So yeah, that was a blunder, but that was also, like I said, a good learning opportunity too. And it all worked out amazing. I mean, we're all still playing and we're just more aware of it now. So.
And now you have two great sets of characters.
And now we have two amazing campaigns. So there's nothing wrong with it. And it's great to see this player play two completely different characters. So. So
sometimes you learn from the weirdest stuff and it comes out in like the best possible way.
Yes, absolutely. So
we're getting to about that point in the recording time where Christian and I swapped to the really quick pivot questions, which I didn't write down his whole fancy explanation, but basically they're really quick questions where you answer with the first honest thing that comes to your mind.
Like what turns you on?
I'll start with that because I rephrased that question because I hate it.
Sarah, if you must know.
I'll start drinking.
What turns me on?
What the question is meant to ask, and we'll start with this, is what gets you ready to create and what inspires you?
Yes. The things that get me ready to create and the things that inspire me are my emotional state. My emotional state heavily influences my creativity. And even within that, what kind of things I create and what kind of things I think of. I remember there was a period in my life where I was having a really rough time. I had gone through some, difficult things, made some poor choices, blah, blah, blah. Won't get too into it, but I felt like I was at rock bottom. And I spent a lot of time when that happened creating and coming up with ideas for Shadows of Esteren. In fact, I remember I would go to the gym and my kids would have a couple hours in like the kids center every day. So I'd go, I'd do my workout, shower, and then I would sit in this little like alcove that they had in their lobby. and it just had this big giant window, and it just looked out onto this big like green field and this tree line. And I remember, especially on days that it would rain, I would sit down and sometimes I would play soft music while I read the books, and I would just look outside and I would just think, and things would just come to me. And man, that got the creative juices flowing.
Heck yeah.
For sure. So, but it's not all melancholy stuff too. I mean, sometimes you see something super exciting, or you see like a beautiful sunset or something like that, and you're like, man, this would be such an incredible thing to incorporate in a game. Like, I experienced this thing in real life and it had this profound effect on me. So maybe I can try to emulate that and try to facilitate that for other people that haven't experienced it in real life via a role-playing game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get that. It's so, like one of those things where it's like, when you write something, you have a specific like song going through your head, and you're like, how do I get the feelings of this song?
Yeah. Yep. I had that too with a song. Sometimes with songs, it'll happen too. So.
All right. These are two that go in combination with each other, and I love them. What is your favorite word, and what is your least favorite word?
This might be a cop-out, but I mean, you said, fuck that, I love words or something like that, or I love language.
Yeah, my instinct was no, words good, fuck off.
Yeah, so I think for me, I don't think I have a least favorite word. I would say any word that is intentionally hurtful or offensive is not good. So like racial epithets and stuff like that, I don't like those words because they are hurtful and mean and don't have value. So don't like those words. But my favorite word, I'm going to get a little mushy and philosophical with you. And I'm going to say, I would say, so probably love would be the best word. I think love can be a very powerful word when you use it, and when you tell someone that you love them or that you love something, it conveys a very deep, like the deepest thing that we can feel as human beings, you know. It conveys feelings of empathy and compassion and understanding, or even if you don't understand, just like I said, empathizing, sharing pain, sharing joy. All of those things can be expressed with the word love. So I love the word love. That would be my favorite word, I would say.
No, fuck yeah, that's awesome.
So,
what sound do you like? Like, what's your favorite sound?
My favorite sound. Oh, this is okay. So might sound a little bit weird, but if anybody is like a gym buff or enjoys working out, there is something to be said for the sound of like weights clanging together. Like whether it's just like pushing two plates together on a barbell, or throwing the dumbbells back up on a steel rack, or anything like that, like a weight stack that hits the stack every time you do a rep. I love that. I love that sound because it's been such an important part of my life since I was a small kid. That for me, that's my go-to. That's always been, if I've ever been like the most stressed out in my life, the thing that I go to is exercise, because number one, it's good for you. Like it's actually healthy. And then number two, it has that release of endorphins and all that good stuff. So I love the sound of fucking weights banging together. It's great.
No, that's so good, because then it also like automatically it gives you that, like, you hear it reminds you of like the satisfaction after a good workout, or like that you're doing better and better. It's
Pavlov's bell, bro.
Yeah.
It really is, right? Like you associate that sound with that feeling, that euphoria. And then before you know it, it's like you hear that when you walk into the gym and you smell the iron and
sweat,
people's shitty perfume and sweat. And then you hear that noise and you recognize the familiar layout, and you're just walking into the locker room or walking upstairs. You're already like, fuck yeah. Like I'm ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're like pumped and ready to go.
Good. It's so good. Sometimes smells in the gym aren't great, but it's fine.
It's fine. That's how gyms work. I know. I go to gyms. I know what I'm talking about.
Sarah's like, I'm fucking swole. I get it.
I just hide it all under baggy sleeves. sleeves. You can't tell. I'm definitely buff and tough. Anyway.
I'm shredded, baby.
I don't know what my 8-pack looks like.
Nice.
But enough about me. What sound do you hate? Like, what's your least favorite sound? Or just the one that gets on your nerves?
I think hearing people in pain makes me uncomfortable. I don't like that a lot. And I deal with that a lot for my job because I'm a firefighter, EMT, paramedic. So I deal with people that are in physical and emotional distress all the time, especially children. That's difficult. And I don't like that. It's a good sound in the sense that it tells you something is wrong and that you need to fix something. But just seeing another person suffer in pain is not good. I don't like that sound. That's a bad sound. So
no, it's legit.
Yeah, I wish I said like I don't like the sound of like, but it's not that simple.
No, these are honest questions. No,
I actually like that sound.
Yeah, that's a little satisfying, actually.
Sometimes I shave my head and I'm just like.
And I'm gonna finish it off with the funnest of the questions because I enjoy it. Everyone enjoys it. It's the most DMs After Dark question you could ask. What is your favorite curse word?
She. Or if you're asking Jess, it would be, oh yeah. Yes, those are my favorite.
Perfect. The Troy Bliss patented SHIIIIIII. And then I will do the actual wrap up. Is there anything else you want people to know about you that I haven't asked you yet?
Man, just I would say just like in role-playing games, it's all about character growth, and that's true in real life. We all of the things that we experience, all of the things that we see, all of the interactions we have with people, they're all opportunities for us to grow and become better versions of ourselves. So I would say always think about that, and like if you have the energy, if you have the will to do it, put active thought and effort into that, because it's an endeavor that it will always pay dividends, like 100%. So always be willing to grow and learn, and in your games and in real life also. So that's it.
Fuck yeah, that's awesome.
And happy gaming, like us, all that good stuff. Come see what we do.
Yeah.
Let us know how we do what we do when we do it.
Yeah. You can find us on all the social medias at DMs After Dark. And you can email us at dmsafterdark@gmail.com. We also stream every other Friday at twitch.tv/DMsAfterDark at sometime around 6:30 p.m. EST. Never exactly on the mark. It's ish. It's fine. It's fine. We're fine. We're good.
That's our coin phrase, 6:30 p.m. ish.
Ish. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, and the good thing about the Meet the DMs is I don't have to apologize because I'm not sorry. Happy game.
We're not sorry.
What?
Wow. We're not sorry. No. Wow.
No, okay. I'm not sorry.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.